Older writer, though, for a festival like this, because there are people who argue with some evidence that social media have taken the place of imaginative literature, and that people are now creating their own narratives on Facebook and with Twitter and Instagram, Snap, and all that make it unnecessary to sit down and write an extensive work of prose. We shall see if this is true or not. And in the meantime, you are now looking at someone who goes back to an earlier era of writing. We had no MFA programs back then. We had the famous Writers' School of Westport, Connecticut, which advertised in magazines. Bennett Cerf was on the faculty, Faith Baldwin and a few up, Rod Serling around there. And they advertised on matchbook covers as well. And you knew if you paid that money that you were going to be read not by the famous writers themselves, but you were going to be read by graduate students. And they would say nice things about your work. You were going to shell out money in order to be praised. To what purpose? And so we knew it was a scam, and we did not go for it. We wrote our work on manual typewriters, and so as you wrote your first draft, you had a sinking feeling that you would have to retype this entire thing. You did not have the capability of moving paragraphs around in an easy, fluid way. You had to rewrite the whole damn thing 3 and 4 and 5 times, which took a great deal of patience. My generation of writers believed that the truest sign of talent was to be self-destructive. And so we worked hard at it. and we forced ourselves to chain smoke unfiltered cigarettes. And we forced ourselves to drink whiskey, drink bourbon, a writer's drink. I don't know where we got the idea, but there was precedent for it. Dylan Thomas, Faulkner, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Thomas Wolfe, they were all alcoholic, famously alcoholic. And so we tried to emulate them. We drank and smoked ourselves into a stupor, which made us even less able to write anything that was sensible at all. You young people have been spared all of that. And I just mention that so that you know how truly fortunate you are. There may be no imaginative literature in another 5 or 10 years. And it may be the case that nobody will pay you to write a novel. Everybody will expect to get it for free. But at least you don't have to chain smoke. And you don't have to drink yourself and make yourself stupid. It has been a quiet week in Lake Wobegon this last week. I had a wonderful, productive day. Sunday. I don't go to my Episcopal church anymore. Because they got a new rector who thinks that he is the MC of a variety show. And as the MC of a variety show, I don't see it that way. I'm taking a vacation from the worship of the Lord, and I'm working instead. And I made some good progress Sunday and Monday on a novel that I'm working on about a stand-up comedian, and also on a memoir. This memoir is very interesting. My motivation is that I learned that a woman signed a contract with a publisher to write a biography of me, and I wish her well, but I would like to get my own version out there too. And she's talking to an ex-wife and some ex-girlfriends and disgruntled employees. So I wanted to write the story of my own life, and the amazing thing is that once I started in, I discovered that I had a really happy childhood, which I had not known before. Back in the day, you needed to have a tragic childhood in order to be a serious writer. And I discovered that I had not had that. I grew up a fundamentalist. I grew up among people who were living in daily expectation of the rapture and the tribulation that would follow, Armageddon and so forth, and the fall of Babylon. And we lived and breathed prophecy. We lived with some concern, about whether we were saved or not, whether we were really saved or not. And because, we believed that God had decided all of that before the world was made, and what did God know about us that we didn't realize? We weren't sure. I grew up among these gentle people and discovered in writing my memoir that I'd been happy and extremely lucky, and that was a good thing to find out. Monday night, my wife Jenny and I lay in bed, and we were talking about the young couple who have moved into our third floor, and a young woman who is extremely pregnant and who is 2 weeks away from delivering a child, and what a blessing this would be. And from this conversation, lying there in the dark, I could feel my wife roll towards me, which is our long-standing signal. And so we made love. We made love to mature people who grew up in repressive homes, which you discover at this stage in life only heightens the pleasure of being naked with another person, even after 20 years of marriage. We made love. It was a lovely, lovely, lovely thing, and lay there sort of stupefied by pleasure afterward. I woke up on Tuesday morning in chaos and confusion. I was in the emergency room of United Hospital, and there were bright lights, and people were asking me who I was and if I knew where I was. And I discovered that I had a brain seizure, which terrified my wife. And she had called 911. And so the firemen came and they hauled me down the hill to the hospital. I was muttering gibberish. It made no sense at all, and I was sort of stiff and terribly confused. But I came around. I think they gave me Ativan, and I came around, and in order to prove that I had my faculties, I recited for them the 87 counties of Minnesota, which we were required to memorize in the 5th grade. And this really impressed them. They'd never come across this in the emergency room. But I recited Aiken, Anoka, Becker, Beltrami, Benton, Big Stone, Blue Earth, Brown, Carlton, Carver, Cass, Chippewa, Chisago, Clay, Clearwater, Cook, Cottonwood, Crow Wing, Dakota, Dutch, Douglas, Faribault, Fillmore, Freeborn, Goodhue, Grant, Hennepin, Houston, Hubbard, Isantia, Itasca, Jackson, Kennebec, Kent, Gilby, Kitson, Coochin, Lackaparra, Lake of the Woods, the Sewer, Lincoln, Lyon, McLeod, Monoman, Marshall, Martin, Meeker, Mille Lacs, Morrison, Mauer, Murray, Nobles, Norman, Olmsted, Ottertail, Bennington, Pine, Pipestone, Pope, Ramsey, Red Lake, Redwood, Renville, Rice Rock, Roseau, St. Louis, Scott, Sherman, Sibley, Stearns, Stevens, Swift, Traverse, Wabasha, Wadena, Waseca, Watonwan, Wilkin, Winona, Wright, Yellow Medicine. And so they sent me up, admitted me to the hospital. And I lay out there and, was visited by a neurologist who had some ideas about why this had happened, and a cardiologist, and bearers of bad news, and I lay out there thinking about death, of course, as one would in that situation, and wondering what I would be remembered for. I put in a lot of work on creating a saga of a small town in which I discovered, after I've been doing it for about 10, 12 years, I was recreating the lives of my parents. My parents, against whom I was obliged to rebel, of course.